evening to Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms. This is Raph streaming to you live, high above the keep in the hot air balloon. Tonight, as always, I have Neindorf with me. Neindorf, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to get back to this. We've had a couple weeks off again.
Yeah, it's been too long, but we had our nose down to the grindstone, and we've been working hard to develop for you, the listeners. So we got a lot to get through, and we're going to try to keep this to about an hour. I know Sergeant and friends are streaming to celebrate his 100th episode. So congratulations to Sergeant the Candor Gander. It's kind of crazy looking at this space of amazing podcasters that we have. And we've all made it through the bear market. It's going to be like this shared trauma that we all have years from now.
Yeah, in 100 episodes is no small feat. I mean, we only got there just a little bit ago.
Right.
And I tell you what, if you think about the number 100, it sounds like a lot, but you can get there as long as you stick to it, and you get some people that have fun in the chat with you, and you throw some popcorn at them, and what do you know, 100 episodes.
Right. You're totally right. Spot on. The community is just so much fun. And we wouldn't be doing this. None of us would be doing this if it wasn't for you guys. So, all right, let's go ahead and start things out with the question of the day. I'm going to ask my question. And then before you ask your question, I have a little video for you.
All right.
So question of the day, mine is, what are you buying? And let me bring up my little video for you.
Over here, stranger. Got something that might interest you.
Yes.
All right, so for those of you who don't know, that's a good old throwback to Resident Evil 4. And those graphics were definitely from the original, from our favorite merchant of all time, the creepy trench coat guy who asks you, what are you buying? So, Neindorf, you have a question of the day that goes right back to me, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is definitely related, and it's what makes more scholars than hardware.
No, I think I got the Chat GPT answer to the test ahead of time because you were messaging me, and then I saw someone congratulate you on a Discord chat. So you picked up another scholar, huh?
Well, yeah, when a Cube Gen Zero goes across the board and it's a pure, as in DR1 main class, I was
Uh-huh.
like, man, I cannot resist this. And I'm a scholar factory. I already had my two Gen Zeros were already scholars. So I'm like, you know what could go wrong with a third? So let's just get the trifecta of scholars here.
Yeah, let's keep it going for sure. All right, so we gotta, as I mentioned, and as Code Green's mentioning, we have a stacked agenda. So let's get right to it. First thing I want to go to is the equipment data and have you talk about that. So I'm going to change my screen here.
Yeah,
All right, so
absolutely.
yeah, I alluded to this that we've been head down grinding away at building things for you. We've got this beautiful new equipment page. Walk me through what we're gonna find here. And this is the subscribers only feature, or like tell me what is subscribers only and what's not.
Yeah, absolutely. So the base page is very similar to what you're used to seeing for the pet page and or the hero page. You can kind of do the same thing as you're used to on our site. You can register your wallets. You can check all your equipment for all your registered wallets. A single wallet, it doesn't have to be yours, anybody's wallet, or you can look up things by individual ID. Again, these features you've been used to for a while on our site. Now, the cool part about this is, the tab interface across the top, we kind of bucketize the equipment in terms
Mm-hmm.
of their slot, if you will. You got the armor, the weapons, and accessories. So it's kind of the hero data page that we're used to, only now it's accessories. And again, I wanted to get this out here so that you could just see the basic data. I'll add more to this over time. Like on hero data, if you have a hero listed for sale, it'll show a price, and more to come. But long story short, basically, I wanted to get this in front of people, and then the cool feature, which I can kind of see you bringing up now, is the box and whisker charts that we've kind of been used to seeing on a subscriber feature that is for heroes. Now you can see that on equipment, so you can start to get a
Love
sense
this.
of is this a above tier piece of equipment, or is it sub or average? So I think this is super useful in terms of trying to figure out, is this good gear or just mediocre gear?
Yeah, that's awesome. And while we are going here, I just want to acknowledge that I am getting some drop frames for my ISP. I need to look at changing my stream settings. I think I'm trying to stream at too high of a quality. I'm getting a little greedy. I had some really good stream quality for too long, too many times in a row, and now it seems to be kind of coming and going. So my apologies for those of you who are suffering through that. That'll be a change that I make for next episode. So I love this. Absolutely love this. And, one of the things I want to call out to everyone, and we've already asked for a hot fix from the DFK team, and Mr. Zipper said, I thought we had that in already, but we'll go ahead and add it to the list. And that's that the equipment IDs, that if you want to search by that, just like Crystal Bear Serendale IDs, they have this giant string of characters before them. And so you got to make sure you pump in that information. Hey, there's the
that?
The donate is working now. Yeah. So thanks to Noobs for that donate.
That's
I do have it working live now. Yeah, it's a lot has happened since the last time we podcasted. So yeah, if you look at an item, you'll see what that item number is, but it has a 1 and a whole bunch of zeros before it. And so, if you can search by your ID. What I found to be most helpful is search by my ID, and then punch in something that is close to that. And so if I'm looking for an accessory or an armor, what I do is I'll copy in this ID, but we've asked for the hotfix already that when you click on that ID number, it will copy into your clipboard the entire ID that you can then paste into the site. And so
I feel like we're partially at fault for DFK having to implement that originally for Heroes, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. All right, so Charger's Mask. This is actually something that I've been toying with, and the answer to my question of the day, what have you been buying? I picked up a Charger's Mask. I've been pretty happy with it. Been pretty fun. I got this, on the variable stats here, B1, so this is how you read it. Increased physical damage, 18%. That's pretty high. That is well above your box, your 75th percentile, and far above those other characters. And so for an archer, increased magic damage percentage. I didn't buy it for a seer, so I bought it for an archer. I feel like 18% is pretty good, and I'm really happy on my high dex archer right now, who just hit level 20. So pretty
Dude,
cool.
that's awesome. I should I'll chime in real quick too. So I had some conversations, and I think maybe you saw some of that too offline here with Zipper, kind of asking about what are the curves in the drop rates for some of these pieces of equipment and their stats. And what's really interesting is he had a really good answer. It's basically it depends, and their system is super flexible. They could have drop rates that are a bell curve, an inverted bell curve, an exponential decay.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could implement kind of whatever they want. And so what you're seeing on the bottom of there, see how there is no bottom whisker necessarily.
Right.
All that tells you is that basically
the box
there's
is the
no
bottom.
space there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so sometimes they look a little goofy because the distributions are
A little funky.
They're non-normal.
Yeah.
But it's not a bug. That's just how the math ends up working out. So I just kind of wanted to call that out for our users.
For the math nerds out there. Well, the math nerds that certainly loved Hubert's presentation that we'll get to here in a moment. So that's not the only thing we've been working on. If you navigate to the homepage, we've also finally launched what we've been teasing for a long time, the Sidekick app. And so this is our QuestBot. And this is something that, I've been on the Sidekick now for, I feel like it's going on 2 years. And we finally implemented this and rolled it out into a sustainable feature that people get a configuration file that they create right here on the webpage. It's a 3-step process. For those of you who have seen my video, ADFK in a Box, a 3-step process. First, you download the bot, and that's on a Google Drive file. Second, you load your credentials into the bot, so that's your public address and your private key. And the third is you configure the bot right here on the web page. And so here we have, the ability to turn auto questing on and off. Training questing, you can specify heroes. Stand potting, you can specify heroes. That's something that it's a brand new feature you just rolled out. Auto leveling, a big old configuration file here, and we've been helping onboard users, whether it's from other automation services or just who have custom requests on how they want to create their auto level up configuration files. That's something that eventually we're going to streamline into the website here, and so you could drop like in an Excel file that might have your choice for configuration, and then our configuration UI here would represent what you have in Excel or a CSV file. And so we have that. We have a manual workaround in the meantime. So don't be intimidated by this never-ending story of auto level up configurations. We have auto summoning, we have feeding, we have tavern sales, gas limits, and we have a Discord channel alert system as well. So, I mean, Neindorf, this has been in the making for a long time, and holy cow, this is a pretty big feat.
Yeah, and we've talked about this a little bit before, but we never really set out to make a bot to release to the public per se. It was just kind of a thing that, we, as you and I quested heroes and wanted to automate some things, we just added features. And eventually we're like, it'd be great if I could change these features from anywhere and not just, a config file on my local PC back home. And then we're like, well, if we can change it from anywhere, why couldn't anybody change it from anywhere? So, so you wrap a little bit more around it so that it kind of ties in with your account on the website, and voila, here we are. So it's kind of been a fun learning experience. Again, and that's like we hit on a lot here. That's kind of why you and I are here, learning how to do a few things and, soft release it to some guild members that gave us some really good feedback. I'll give, kudos to everyone from Just Crypto to Delay to Franz giving us feedback. I'm sure I'm forgetting people, but they kind of helped us, improve this and add features, just those final finishing touches that I think make it useful for honestly anybody out there with a bunch of heroes.
Yeah, and this is what we're really leaning into is not your keys, not your crypto. These keys are stored in a encrypted text file on your local device, and so we have download files for, as you can see here, we have download files for Raspberry Pi and for Windows, and those keys stay on your device. The bot can access them, but if you ever lost control of your PC, or if you ever lost control of your Raspberry Pi, those are encrypted text files, and so we like to abide by that. And this is a local application as well, and so this is running off of your computer, and that provides I would say alternatives to the services that are out there now. Something that we are both proponents of, but we want to encourage people to make their own choice. The elephant in the room is Helper has a great product, and we're not necessarily even trying to compete with them. We are trying to find a niche in the bot services market that if people are interested, seek us out, and we'll help you get set up and go for it. All the love for Zealous and what he's done and what he's created and how he's supported the ecosystem really for years with the bot that he built. So everything is I would say kind of good, friendly between us still, and we're just trying to offer an alternative product for people to have choices with.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like they have definitely, he has created the Cadillac experience where it's basically all the bells and whistles you could possibly want are in there. We definitely don't have that level of capability, nor do we really plan on it. It's just kind of one of those things where some of these other auto tools where you keep your keys locally, those tools have kind of faded as the bear market really hit us. And we kind of were looking around and people like, oh well, there used to be this tool, but it died or it hasn't been maintained. Well, this bot has not been maintained, and so it's dead. So we really kind of saw that the field had shrunk, and that was kind of another reason where we kind of decided to, get back in and like, well, hey, we got a tool. Let's push it out and release it to the general public.
Yeah. All right, so as we kind of progress with it, we have an active proposal going on. Two noobs absolutely killing it with some
Wowzers.
donations here. I love that feature. That is so bomb, so fire. Okay, so right now there's proposal 26. Nine Dwarf, I have a feeling how you're thinking about voting now that you're buying up Gen Zeros. Um, so the team has released that they now have voting capability, and since the last time that we spoke, and I think the last time we spoke, we actually whined about wanting voting capability, um, and here it is. So we have, to increase the amount of voting per Gen Zero and the amount of voting per land. You can see what my vote totals are, and when I look down at some of these total votes, there are some whales out there that I'm like,
Oh yeah.
wow, this is wild. So, um, but a vast majority, I really love the UI here, are interested in increasing the voting power of the heroes and land. So Neindorf, kind of before we get into giving any commentary on what we like or dislike about the rationale behind this, instead let's first focus on just like the voting capabilities.
Yeah, I think this is great, and I think it was very seamless. And what I would say is they have done a really great job. They talked about for a while how there's issues or the voting system wasn't right. They didn't quite like it yet. I I would say that I didn't really like that at first. I was like, just get something out there. But what I would have to say on the other end of it now, seeing what they have, this was so slick and it was painless and took literally 5 seconds. And the interface is very friendly. So
Solid.
again, I'll give them props. They did a great job. This is a well polished product. This is what we know and expect and love from ADFK.
Yeah. This is 69 bloater from Dags. Thank you. Dags.
That might
Appreciate
be
that.
worth more than the crystal.
Yeah,
uh,
for sure.
bloaters bloaters
The dollar sign blow. That's for sure. I I think that's like a whole another podcast topic since the last time we podcasted. I mean, there's been so much content lately with the meme coin that KP is making. Gosh, I'd love to have him on, and I'm sure he'd be happy to join
We should
sometime.
do that. We should schedule him for the next like month or
Oh,
so
that'd be
here.
great. Yeah, so let's get into kind of how you're feeling or how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I want to make sure I like the idea of the voting power existing for the people who are holding playable assets. And I think that the Jewel is a phenomenal token with amazing tokenomics, like the best tokenomics out there. I think that having more governance power going to the people playing the game is overall the right direction, the right way to orient. I think the only reason why people could have a legitimate qualm on why they don't want to increase the voting power for Gen Zeros is because of the topic that we'll talk about next, which is the Gen Zero cooldowns. And unfortunately, I think you kind of got to talk about these topics hand in hand. But I'll save my conversation points of cooldowns for your commentary on just
Sure.
the voting power here.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, I think you have to have a serious differentiation between land and Gen Zeros, which I think this vote accomplishes, and a general purpose hero. I mean, it could even be a beast hero, but the part about that that's very different is you know, the renewability or recreatability of these heroes. Gen Zeros and land are those two assets in this game that are of limited
One
quantity,
of one.
always will
Yep.
be. They'll never grow more. So, that is huge in terms of voting power. And I think you couple that with the point that you made about playing. And I have a strong feeling that as land gains value or sorry, utility, I think it's going to be an active thing. I don't think that land is necessarily I really hope it's a thing where you actually have to kind of actively participate or maintain and set policies or set prices and play markets and I kind of hope that's the sort of system this goes to. And Gen Zeros, you have to be active. You're summoning, you might even be dueling with them if they're high level. You could be even PvP hunting or PvE, sorry, hunting. I kind of feel like the people who hold Gen Zeros and land are the ones that are here for the long term and they're here to play.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, rewarding them, giving them the power to help make decisions just is logical.
It's funny, every once in a while we look for these like little indicators of value, and the team always states, we don't set the market price on things. But this is
That's
the
true.
first time that there has been some kind of value system by the team placed on it. And I'm sure if Dreamer was here, he would say, we had to put a number there that has no representation of value. But I thought this was interesting, and maybe it has to do with the total supply. That it's a 5-to-1 ratio. I can't remember off the top of my head.
It
Maybe
is between land and Gen
Yeah.
Zeros. I'm pretty sure I heard
That
Hubert
was
say
my
that.
guess. Yeah. So,
Yep.
yeah, I think that's just interesting. There's some land going out there. It probably is about a 5-to-1 price right now, from what I've
Well,
seen.
so actually, that actually made me think though. Your point about the market between Gen Zers and land, I don't think that's the important one. I think the important one is to look at the price difference between a general hero if this number one succeeds and a Gen Zero.
Mm, okay.
So that's kind of really where they're saying, hey, look, they wouldn't have offered this large multiplier for a Gen Zero if they didn't think that there ought to be long-term sustainable utility and value of Gen Zero. So I think they're making
Yeah.
another statement to reemphasize the importance of that NFT.
Okay, that was weird. I just accidentally locked my screen somehow. Okay, so I hope I didn't destroy the stream and cut
That
anyone
looks
off.
fine here
That
on
was
my end.
a great point that you made. Um, yeah, I think, and you and I will have spoken about like land expeditions, travel till we're blue in the face, and the thing that we've been touting from the mountaintops forever is like give Gen Zeros the utility of when they travel, they boost the effectiveness of the other heroes traveling in that party for months. And why I bring
Right.
this up again is I actually feel like it's relevant to the next topic of conversation, which is summoning. And my hope is that if the Gen Zeros eventually, while they're traveling, are outside of the portal, they can't summon. They can't do the naughty naughty with other Gen Zeros and make Gen 1 babies. So that's where we have to start thinking about what should the next outcome be. So the next proposal has kind of been loosely stated by the team, but I don't think put into writing many places or not in a Medium article. But it sounds like the next voting proposal is going to be 14 days cooldown on Gen Zeros, 7 days of cooldown, or leave it the way that it is. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I like the options. I would say 14 days, just if you think about like mentally what you do in a 14-day period, that seems lengthy to me. I mean, and I get we want to curb and hero inflation, and I think this is the best way to do it because it is the root of the inflation. However, I would say that yeah, 2 weeks is a long time. And if you're like, I know I've worked out things with like Zabu and someone in the people in the past where I'll rent from him and then the next time he'll rent from me. Man, if 2 weeks goes by, no one's gonna remember whose turn it is. It's just gonna be really difficult. So I feel like that 7 day part is kind of the sweet spot to me. Um,
Boy,
but
couldn't agree
I'm not
more.
sure.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like 14 days is just it's so long that there are not I will be voting for that last. In all fairness and transparency, um, while I feel like it could be, I think it's reasonable to state that the value of Gen Zeros will be linearly proportional to their summons time, and so I'm willing to concede that that's true. I would rather have a summons cooldown of 7 days than of 14 days. And let's just say, even for argument, that it's not linear. That actually the amount of cooldown time starts to increase the value of the Gen Zeros, because the value of the Gen 1s increases because there's so much fewer out on the marketplace. I think I'd still rather have the Gen 1 10 out of 10s because there's just nothing else to do with the Gen Zeros.
Right.
I bought them to summon, and I just feel like 14 days, like you said, that is an eternity in the crypto space. I mean, that talk about when. I mean, when can my Gen Zero summon again? And so, that's actually kind of my third ranked. I'd say I'd voting for 7 days. I think that's a no-brainer. I really like that. I don't mind losing, one summon essentially from where we're at now. But 14 days, it feels heavy-handed, especially with the amazing news about transcending heroes as well. So should we transition to that, or do you have any other comments to make?
Well, I got a reckless speculation here.
Oh, let's go.
Or maybe a reckless idea, I guess. You had mentioned something that kind of piqued this thought in my mind. There's if Gen Zero summoning time is the root of hero inflation, why is that? That's because you summon 2 Gen Zeros together to get a Gen 1, and so then you have 10 more potential summons from that. This burn mechanic is to reduce the total hero population. But if you cut to cut out
Over here,
complete
stranger.
summons is another option. Well, there's something that I haven't seen considered yet. What if you provided a boost to a hero summoned with 1 Gen Zero and the other hero is greater than Gen Zero? Something like, imagine if you did a Gen 1, or sorry, a Gen 5 that's got at most, 5 or less summons left with the Gen Zero. Maybe you get an extra stat point or something. Not a lot, but just something little that could cause people to go off meta right now and do Gen Zero with a non-Gen Zero.
Yeah.
That's a whole avenue I feel like no one's explored really.
Yeah, I think, well, the only way that I like the idea, and the only way I would say close to the way that they're exploring it is, it sounds like there's going to be, and we'll get into this right now as we kind of segue, there's going to be more weight or value provided to transcending or burning your heroes that are 10 out of 10. And so I think for a lot of us who are just doing Gen Zero factories, like if you get a common 10 out of 10, I think a lot of people are going to be transcending those. And so in some ways, I assume that will be the value, the additional in-game value that's provided to them.
That's true. Yeah, I can see that.
All right, so we got walls of text coming at you here, and 30 minutes left to go. So, transcending heroes, first of all, 10 out of 10, A+ for coming up with something that is thematically opposite of dark summoning. I couldn't love this anymore. So the idea is that you are sending heroes to go fight in the army of Gaia. They no longer live on this plane, but you gain value from them leaving your wallet and going to fight in the army of Gaia. So I mean, spot on by them. Great job, lore team. Great job, existing team, for coming up with a good idea. All right, so then there are rewards for sending heroes to the gods. There are new items, Divine Essence and Greater Divine Essence, just kind of one version and a better version of it. And then existing items, there's Void Shards and Attunement Crystals. And a lot of things are in Attunement Crystals. If you ever want to know about Attunement Crystals, I think I still will never forget that one time that Bolon, I don't know how he did it, but do you remember when it was an AMA and he ripped off the biggest tongue twister of all time, where he was saying Atonement Crystals are part of Attunement Crystals, but it's not I don't know.
Yes.
It's not an AMA.
I do remember that.
So I always
pretty
think
fantastic.
Yeah.
I would say here, someone in our guild chat made the comment that you're gonna see this, or it jumps out then that jumps out at them as, I gotta go find some more GD essence. I'm like, oh yeah, like we're totally gonna be saying that.
I love it. All right, so then what do you do with that essence? The GD essence and the divine essence. Uh, so there are new features. You can upgrade items, you can level up reroll, you can level reset, and you can do equipment restoration. All of these are massive things that we've been looking for. I, for one, have been absolutely clamoring for the item upgrade side of things. And, the level up re-rolling, I don't think anyone expected this. The level reset, I don't think anyone expected that either. And the equipment restoration, for me, holding a Scally's eye, pretty excited about that too. One
Yeah,
of the things that I just want to call out here, future plans for Divine Essence include crafting recipes, potions, permanent death avoidance, and more. When you and I were initially talking about this, I was kind of like, I wish they could include more materials into, you know, item upgrades, for example. But I feel like they're getting out the feature that they need to get out to solve the very real problem that we have of a hero glut. And then the subsequent problem that hero glut creates an item glut. And then they're having plans, or they're building plans in the future for ways that this can, the crafting recipes piece is the one that I'm excited about.
I think that's a good point. And yeah, it's like crafting already is the concept for to reduce item glut. It's just we just we're not there yet, but it that problem is magnified by the hero inflation problem, to your point. So it's basically if you stem the tide at the top, the future problem of crafting will get there, but it won't be as bad by the time you get there.
Right,
And
with botting, we've said that items just become gold, and I
yes,
jokingly said that they're kind of declaring item bankruptcy right now with this, which is we're just going to try to kill off a whole bunch of heroes and hope the item problem solves itself. Which I hope that's actually the case.
yeah, it's an interesting concept, and I think I've not had time to really like sit down and think too long and hard about it because of some of these developments we've been working on. But overall, it's really hard. I feel like to punch significant holes in these new features and concepts. So I'm it's kind of been a roller coaster, as your point about the level up re-rolling and the level resets. I was originally like, oh wow, that's kind of cool. I was like, oh Raph, you're gonna love that because you got these beast heroes that if you get a bad level up, no big deal. And then I was like, oh well, that's terrible because all my heroes are gonna suck then. And then now I'm back to like, oh well, but that means that other people can come bring money in and not feel like they could spend a lot of money and then in one level up just be screwed. So it's been, boy, it's been like a roller coaster for me on this presentation from Hubert.
For sure. I'll try to breeze through some of the stuff that is I think less. I think the meta conversation around this is the most interesting part. So not that like part of these details are not, but I just think that like we'll flesh those out as we go along. So there's a lot that I want to comment on what you just said, but let's get through some of this and then we'll get back to that at the end here. So hero score multiplier, and so when you are burning or transcending these heroes, um, there is going to be value that is assigned to them when they transcend, and there's also going to be this fun little like mini game which is a hero score multiplier, which is kind of like a hide and seek or a finders game of if they'll say like a level 10 monk who's been dark summoned is the hero of the week, that we're trying to get to God's army, as they say. And so the first person who burns that hero gets a multiplier on their dark essence. I think that's a fun little mini game that, again, like we said before, it like benefits those who are playing the game, and so people who are online, aware, paying attention to it, know their hero army well. It's just a neat little way to boost the value of, the essence that's gained.
Oh yeah, and I think once I read this and this came out in Hubert's stream, I think the first thing I did was text you. I was like, "Hey, I'm feeling like a new hero alert feature here for our subs. Like, I cannot wait to set alerts for hero multiplier score. Like, I want you to tell me if a multiplier score of something at least 4 comes out.
And
Boom.
a
There you
base
got an alert.
and a base hero score too. That we'll
Yeah,
build, that
absolutely.
we're going to build into the basic hero data page, where we're going to tell you exactly how much value they have in transcending, because that, I didn't even get into those math formulas in my 11-point slideshow here, because they're, I think, exactly why we build the tools here at ADFK, is that that's something that we want to let you punch a hero ID into our website, just like you always do when you go to look at their abilities, and you can see what their essence score is. And so you'll know what that hero score is and approximately the value that you can expect to gain with some randomness if you transcend that hero. So that, I mean, that's what we're about here. All right, so then the next piece is enhancement stones used during the summoning process, as well as attunement crystals, will provide additional rewards while ascending those heroes, which is kind of, people have jokingly called this the Grady effect, because Grady was pining for this for years, coming from dark summoning. Is if I use a crystal, if I use a stone on my hero and I dark summon them, I want to be able to get something more out of it. Well, wish granted here. Void shards, talking about the dark summon heroes will obtain void shards instead of GDE, which is not to be underplayed. Just, I think that means that getting GDE will be just kind of that much harder. Just because, you know, the things that increase the multipliers on a hero score are rarity, number of summons. Well, summons doesn't matter so much with dark summoning, but advanced class too. And I feel like those heroes are a little easier to get right now because of the hero glut with dark summoning. So something to keep in mind. All right, lesser attunement crystal rewards. And so while you transcend a hero, you will get lesser attunement crystals back, which I think is pretty good. But we don't really want lesser attunement crystals, which is where this is my favorite feature. You know, feature number 1 that they talk about is item upgrade recipes. And so now we can take our lesser attunement crystals, we can make normal crystals, greater crystals, we can take the stones that we get from the stone carver, and we can make normal stones, greater stones, and then we can take our Shavas runes that we get, and we can create Moksha runes. So what do you think about this page?
Yeah, I think this is great. You know, it's a we you know, I'm sorry, I'm struggling with my words here because there's so much that's running through my head. We've talked about this kind of feature in so many ways and times and shapes, and now to see their idea is completely different and yet cool and unique in some ways. The fact that you're using essentially hero burn to upgrade and an abstracted hero burn in terms of essence. You know, it really is tricky to wrap my head around because, you know, we talked about, oh, put these in, maybe play a little game. You know, we had that idea of the
Right.
Christology game, right? This is like you basically you're dropping heroes into the fire or ascending them, you know,
Right.
upwards or downwards, whichever. Uh, in terms, so you acquire essence to upgrade. Like, I
Yeah.
I'm still thinking this through, and you know, another one, a column on here that I know our cohort Skillet would love is the gold. He he was a little disappointed when I told him that there was only 5 zeros and not 6 zeros on any of these recipes.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think you guys, he might be underestimating the level of degen that the community has. I really hope that the greater stone, I mean, because 100,000 gold right now, because I've been buying big chunks of 100,000 gold, it's 5 jewel right now. That's 5 jewel. Like, that is a significant number. And the divine essence or greater divine essence, I guess it's a little hard to put a jewel ratio to that. Um, I think we're gonna have a lot of degens out there that are just killing off their hero armies, their legion. They're commanding their legion to transcend, and creating a whole bunch of essence to create these greater stones, because I'm a huge believer in greater stones. I feel like it's the most important item in the game by far.
Well, and now they're semi-permanent, right?
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. So the important part that I think I got out of this is if you're dark summoning two mythic heroes, you should almost by default be using a greater stone because it's kind of permanent. If you have some bogus level ups, I mean, A, you're guaranteed a mythic hero in return, right? But if you have some bogus level ups, re-roll those level ups. Or if you get to a point where you don't like it, and maybe down the line, once we pick things that are permanent, like stats or skills or something, you need to reset things. That's Greater Stone's permanent on a mythic hero. Like, that seems
Right.
like a pretty good proposition to me.
Absolutely. So, perfect segue into level up rerolls. So there's two kind of rerolls, and I'll be honest, same like you, I've not really had enough time to wrap my head fully around this, but there's a level up reroll, and then there's the level reset reroll. And so level reset is going all the way back down, and level up reroll is you can choose to take your level that you just obtained, and before you fully commit it, you can have a chance, if you're spending divine essence, to reroll. And there's a cost associated with that, a cost that is increased significantly by choosing to reroll on one of your 5th level ups, which makes sense because that's where all those bonus skill points are coming from mythics.
Yeah, and the difficulty in which to have good level ups across the span of many levels is much more difficult. So, yeah, I think that's a huge factor in this, honestly. So imagine hitting that level 20 level up and getting a scrub, and then
Mm-hmm.
having to sacrifice essentially a boatload of heroes
So
versus if it's the level 5 level up, maybe it's only 3, 4.
I here we're kind of so then level reset is you can take the heroes back down to level 1. You don't have to spend, you automatically get all your XP, and you can pretty much kind of re-level them all you want. Is my understanding of this, right? Is that how you're interpreting this?
Yeah, so I mean it's kind of like you
Try it
keep the
again.
permanent stat boosts that you got from stones or PJs or something like that, but everything else gets reset back to 0, and it's essentially like it came out of the Dark Summon portal in the sense that you get to
Right.
go right back to the level you were
And
at.
you can go use
Um,
greater crystals while you're
yep,
leveling them up.
that's right. And so
Love that.
like, we talked earlier, I bought a Gen Zero, right? And it had garbage stats. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep leveling that hero up because it was ready to go to level 9 when I bought it. So I immediately went to level 9. No crystal.
Yeah.
Because A, it's already got garbage stats. So I could see a complete reset in the future of that
Why
hero
not?
if I, so cared to do.
And those, I can't remember if you said this earlier, but greater atonement crystals stay with the hero too.
They do. That's right.
Yeah.
And anything else that's been permanent from like a reroll or a PJ or any non level up boost will be permanent. So, and again, keep in mind too, say you make a beast hero, Raph, and you've got a mythic with, a second life and a giant slayer. And you have, there's a real thought process to applying a greater atonement crystal
Right.
at level 1 and then rolling that hero forward. And if you ever have a point where you're like, this isn't working well, I've had some bad luck,
You already applied
popping
it.
him all the way back to
Yeah.
1 because that sticks and you get an extra greater crystal you can use.
Right. Right. So now we have about 10 minutes left to go through what I'll call kind of the commentary section of this. And there's been two points of maybe pushback, or I'll call it concern, that are kind of coming out of this, and then lots of points of excitement. And I think it's just good and healthy to talk about everything here. So uh, one point of concern, which I feel like is undeniable and also kind of like a call to action for the rest of the community and developers like us is this is complex as all get out. And I think Code Green was the first person to say this, and that guy is one of the smartest guys I know. And I feel like this could continue to make, while it keeps, the complexity is something that keeps people long term, it is something that could turn people off in the short term. And so I think that's something we all have to be aware of, like as we're trying to onboard new people, which is a very important concern for us all, onboarding more people. I think this is something that, it's just adding to the layers and the depths of this, which again, layers and depths, that's what's going to keep people long term. That's why you and I are still at this, years into the making. But I think that's kind of undeniable that it does make, I mean, we're spending 30 minutes just talking about this, and we have been in this ecosystem for years. So imagine trying to be a new person coming into this.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I actually had never really considered that before, but onboarding into DFK at this point in time is kind of like a 12-step process, right? That's like step one, here's what a hero is, here's where you buy them. Step two, well, what kind of hero? And it just levels and levels and levels. And this is the sort of thing that you could kind of just wave your hand over to a new player and be like, hey, if anything on a level up, or if you chose something wrong on a really cool hero, don't worry, it's not permanent. We can help you
Yeah,
fix it later. It'll cost you something, but it's not huge, so don't worry about it.
right.
So I feel like you can kind of do some hand wavy stuff there. But you're right,
Fix it
it
later.
is yet another system to learn, and uh, it and that's where we hope we can kind of help provide some of that
Yeah.
drawn out data. Or I expect there'll be some Medium articles and other content creators out there like us will have more. So
More
we'll
videos on it. Yeah,
we'll get
absolutely.
there.
So then the second piece is, if does this become a whales game? And I don't feel like, I'll kind of show my hand here. I don't feel like it does. And I feel like the team has very intentionally included some great features ahead of time, and will probably continue to include some great features that allows it to not become just a whales game. But the level up re-rolling is one of those things that you could potentially re-roll on every single level up for a hero that you have, on a very powerful mythic hero that you have. It could cost you a lot, but you could keep re-rolling that hero to min-max those stats effectively to get the best statted hero in the game, if that's what you wanted to do. Um, I think there are countervailing forces that are very powerful that help make this not actually be a long-term problem for PvP, and that's basically the stats S formula, in my opinion, is the most important piece. And then the balance between, it's not just hero, it's equipment, it's the move set that you select, and the team composition that you select that play into winning. But what are your thoughts on, does this create two powerful heroes?
I was a little concerned about that from when I look at my heroes, because I've kind of been playing that like upper middle of the road game where it's like I got a couple, several that they're definitely above average heroes, but they're not beasts. And I was like, maybe that's as far as I can go at the moment without investing, significant time and energy into creating summoning trees and then burning them down. But I feel like with some of this, maybe people such as yourself, there's a market for you to sell heroes where you've already paid the price to cook up these awesome heroes. Because essentially what's happened now is the RNG nature of level ups has been reduced to a point where you can pay to absolve it. But what you cannot do that for is summoning. So you are still, all the hard work you have put into summoning, for abilities, that is still as prevalent as ever. And it's one of the only things that actually still provides meaningful differentiation that it doesn't do in level ups. For example, I have my uncommon Dread Knight, the only one I've ever summoned, only one I've ever owned. He had Giant Slayer back when there was only like two other ones that had Giant Slayer. Now, however, there's a lot more of them, and he's uncommon, and his stats are decent, but he no longer can hold a candle to some of the beasts that are coming up the chain to meet him at level 19 or 20.
And I think the key is going to be for the team to thread the needle when PvP comes out. And there's actually a very meaningful reward system that could draw a large influx of players. And, we have all reason to believe that with the Metis announcement that they are going to have a very meaningful reward system for those initial tournaments. But it can't all be, the hero with the highest stats wins. Like, playing duels would not be fun for the long term. And I feel like that's where they've done a really good job of layering this complexity into the game, where it's like you have to have a good pet and not just all the equipment, armor, shield, helmet, or other accessory. And there's like a certain pairing that you can have to those accessories. So you might not have the best accessory. The Charger's mask, which I picked up at a value price. So I think there's going to be room for people who are very savvy users to succeed out there. And I might have a rare, potentially even an uncommon hero, God forbid, even a common hero who has great stat level ups. If I make all the other decisions correctly, ideally I still have a chance to win when I'm playing in PvP. I think that will be a very tricky balance for them to find, but I think they're layering in the right things into the game. Again, I gave props to it when it came out. It was like kind of a slight nerf to stats. I don't think anyone even complained about that being the case, but I think the stats S formula with how it balances, ultimately all the impact of the moves that you select, it is mitigated by, it kind of dampens very high class stat heroes. And so if someone wants to max out and go for that, they might get a 5, 10, 15% higher chance to win, but probably not any better than that. I think just as easily someone can bring decently leveled heroes with a excellently well-crafted team and selection of abilities and selection of moves and pets, and they could compete with them at a high level. So that's my hope for the game.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Because say you pick the top 3 heroes that your codex of your hero requires for their mana and for their their job, right? Like a tank, a MP, whatever, a dealer. So if you chose those 3 and you keep boosting them and they get good roll up, then maybe you do a 1 or 2 re-rolls, maybe 3 on your way up to 20. But those 3 stats are good. My question is there going to be a noticeable difference in heroes that have where your offs codex stats are, say, instead of in their 20s, if they're in their mid 30s or upper 30s? Are you even going to notice that? Because that's kind of what you're going to achieve by level up rerolls. You're going to want to get from
Tuning
8 per level to 10 to 12 per level, but those are going to be in your off codex skills or stats rather. So, that might end up meaning you have more wisdom as a berserker. Wow, that's helpful, I guess. I don't know.
For a hero class that doesn't even use mana.
Right. And then this is kind of I'm reading Stick's intern's comments here, and that's kind of what's making my mind go in this way. 7 might be good enough if 6 of those points are in your codex skills. It's kind of a hard sell to go from 8 to 10 to 12 in terms of cost when there's really no benefit.
And the value that this, and so like let's lean into this, because I think this is where I was trending and where I'm convicted now that this is the case. The value that this re-rolling system brings to the ecosystem is it's burning all these heroes and all these material creators that are just creating inflation in the ecosystem. And so actually, like, this is a sneaky, not even sneaky, just an amazing play that it will slightly increase the win percentage of those whales who want to go do PvP. Great. If you follow people like Sticks Intern who are doing weekly battle logs where they're going through strategy, or I always want to call him Bob Nothing, just crypto, and watching his streams on how do you compete on the PvE, and I'm sure those guys are going to have content when it comes to PvP. Then if you can get a leg up on that strategy that doesn't really require investment, and the value of all the rest of your heroes has increased because people are kind of wasting their heroes just chasing those extra summons point or those extra level up points.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Let them participate in the burn for 2 extra stat points. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I know you and I have been talking about this for a while, trying to talk a little bit about it in guild chat. Kind of hard to get all those points out there. Great feedback here. Conversation going on with Sticks, Code Green in the chat. I'd love to jump on Sticks Interns podcast at some point, chat with him about this some more, or have him on our podcast as well as we we go along. We've hit the 10:30 mark, and so for all of those of you who are still here tuning in, go check out Sarge's podcast. It's about ready to start, and happy 100th episode to him. And thanks for tuning in, and DM us if you have any questions about Sidekick or are more interested in the equipment data page that we now have available to subscribers.
Yeah, and as always, everybody, if you got features, send me a request. We build what we know people want. So if you want something, let me know.